What up, everybody? Welcome in to another episode of Profit Picks. We do always start the show by being transparent. Yesterday, I didn't do a show. I said I would tweet out, if I had some action on the game. I did take the +3 with the Giants in the first half, which lost. I took the +5.5 for the full game, which won. And then I also had Army -11 in my pocket. So 2 in 1 day for myself yesterday. Surprisingly, Rob, 9-2 in college football this season. So
Hey.
let's see if I can try to keep some of that magic going.
Yeah.
How's everything going for you? It's good to have you back.
Great to be back, Skee, especially on a Friday with yourself in the chat here. Yesterday was good for me as well. I had Army, like you. They made it pretty easy on us. And I had I got there early and had Dallas -4.5. Thank God. A lot of people got beat by that missed field goal at the end.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah, I'm over there in the corner like this.
Yeah. That guy, he never misses. It's like automatic with him, but he missed that one. And I think it's just we say it all the time. Closing line value doesn't mean everything, but you have to get it because more often than not, you're going to be on the right side of that. And 5.5s didn't get there. A lot of 5s. So you got everything last night. You got win, lose, and draw in that one. But I was lucky enough to be on the win side. So 2-0, been good. Let's keep it going this weekend.
Nice job getting the best of that number. Appreciate you guys tapping in the chat. And we do have, pack lineup. We got Rob Veno, 3 sports to talk about. And then we following up with 5-star on the next show. So let's get to it, Veno. We have 2 series left in the W. And these go on Sunday. So first up, Aces and Liberty. Opened up Liberty -4.5. They're now 4-point favorite pretty much everywhere. I do see Circus still holding a 3.5 or hanging at 3.5. Total open 163. It's as high as 164. And I can't lie. I mean, I'm not mad at it. The first thought, when I see both of these teams is they're absolutely capable of scoring. Both teams comfortable playing with pace. I do think the Liberty both teams also have been playing really good defense. So it makes it tough. I know New York Liberty won a little bit of revenge for last year. Do you think they can get it here?
Well, they're certainly capable, right? I mean, on paper, I think these two teams are as even as it gets. I tell you, my first inclination here, Skee, was to go ahead and play under. I know they can both score, but the more I see of this Aces defense and the more I see of that interior defense of New York, and then I went back and looked at the season series because I can remember betting a couple of those games to the over. And when I went back and looked, what I found was they played a 172, very first game of the year. I think that was a game where the line discrepancy was huge. You could have either won or lost that. Early you win, late you lose. But then they played a pair of 146s. 75, 71, 76, 69. And playoff intensity, 164. You're asking everybody to get to 80. It's tough. Even though they're good offensive teams, it's tough. So my first inclination here is to play under. I like the way, again, I'll reiterate this, that from Becky Hammond all the way down from Asia Wilson through that rotation, they're all talking about defense. And that defense is going to carry them. New York is really dependent upon the threes. They shoot them so well. So you got to lock in on Sabrina. You got to lock in on a lot of people on that team, including, Brianna Stewart, who didn't have the best 3-point shooting season of all, but she's still capable. There's a lot of capable shooters on that side. I kind of foresee this first game more of and generally, I think when we handicap NBA playoff basketball, Skee, we're kind of from the same school that the first game is the one that's a little looser. And then as the series goes on, defense tends to know what's going on and maybe they get a little lower scoring. But here, these series are so short that you have to really play hard right from the get-go. I think I'm going to be on under here. I'm not there yet, but I think 164 is a good enough, 165, whatever it is good enough number for me to go ahead and play under. Up, you muted yourself.
My bad. guys in the chat, PZ says he's with you on that under. Dropping Dimes likes the under. I was looking up, and it's not really, I mean, it's 50-50, so don't really have any results here. But both teams have more than 3 days rest. We always talk about rest versus rust. Um, Maybe offensively, they come out to start the game a little rusty and it takes some time for them to pick up. Defense is always going to be there, in my opinion. So the first half it opened 81, it's down to 80 and a half. The full game is going up slightly. The first half is going down. Do you think maybe first half could potentially be a better look at the under?
It's always interesting when I see stuff like that, Skee, because it's almost as if they're giving you hints as
Yeah.
to what's going to happen. A lot of times that stuff comes true. It's a good point to make here. I would say this in a game that's lined where this one is 4.5, and you would expect it to be close at the end, right? You're not really projecting a blowout either way. There's potential, like we were saying the other day, right? How teams play these games out in the WNBA. That mirage, like let's let the last 47 seconds go or whatever it was the other night. That doesn't happen here. So maybe free throws are the reason why, or anticipation of free throws toward the end of the game is the reason why the second half or the full game, over is going up. So I could see that because you have to account for that last minute plus being higher scoring if somebody's chasing and just foul score. We know how that goes.
Yeah, I think I would prefer to avoid that end of game situation. Avoid them maybe, knocking off that rust and coming down second half firing. First half under sounds a little bit better to me.
Maybe we
So
want Kelsey Plum to step up and miss one.
oh man. As long as she's not laughing about it, I guess. But let's move over to the next game. We have we still have time to think and add to these. These games don't go until Sunday. Next game is Connecticut and Minnesota. Opened up Lynx -4.5. They're still at 4.5. Total open 155. I mean, still see a 155, but I think majority of shops are hanging 154.5. And it makes sense for this number to be low for me. I would be low for the game. I mean, Connecticut, we know they're a really good defensive team. They're gonna, I want to say the right word. They're gonna play physical, is what I'll say, and play a lot of defense. Their offense sometimes can have a lot of dry spots, dry spells, and Minnesota Lynx, they're better offensively than Connecticut, but they're also a team with a really good defense. So, I think both times, the last couple of times they played, have stayed under this 155 number. The numbers have been right on the money though, because I think both of the totals pushed in her previous ones. I think it was a 151 and either 153 or 154. But they're capable of playing these low scoring games. Now, these teams, I think they have exactly 3 days rest. So, that fourth day is kind of when I start to think the rest kicks in. So maybe not so much for these teams, but maybe a little less. Well, I don't know. I'll kick it to you, Rob. You lock in pretty good on Connecticut. Do you agree this one can stay under that low number of 155? Or how are you looking at Connecticut and Minnesota?
Well, I think it can, Ski, because again, I'll look at the season series here, right? The first game, much like the Las Vegas New York series, the first game was the highest scoring one. They played a 165 way back on the 23rd of May. They came back with a 151 in Minnesota, 78-73. But the most recent game is the most interesting, right? They played on the 17th of September, and that game was for seeding. Connecticut was trying to track down Minnesota for the 2. Minnesota held the 2 seed. And Minnesota went to Connecticut and won that game 78-76, 154 right on the nose. And that was a playoff atmosphere, much like we'll see here. So I think you can use that game as a gauge realistically. And when you look back at this season series, 1-point win by Connecticut, 5-point win by Connecticut, 2-point win by Minnesota. Everything is right there. Tight, defensive oriented, you would expect it to be. And we've thrown in the added handicap of Marina Mabry on Connecticut in the playoffs as we talk through the first series. And so if you just go back to the 17th, Marina Mabry was part of that Connecticut effort that night, 78-76, still 154. So she didn't move the needle enough to push it over the total that's being offered here now. You're shaving it so close. I mean, the odds maker has this thing pretty darn right. You have to make a firm decision, and I don't know that we want to stand up where the total's concerned here, Skee. And points could be at a premium. I've been partial to Minnesota a lot of the season, but I could definitely see Connecticut hanging right in. I love this addition of Marina Mabry. Those first two playoff games show it, why she's there, what she's there for. Against Indiana, she knocked down a huge three. I think Caitlin Clark had given the other side the lead late in the game, and Mabry came through. So I'd probably look, and I haven't bet it yet, but I think Connecticut plus points might be the way I go.
Interesting. I'm leaning a little bit more towards the Lynx. I'm a believer in Connecticut's starting five as far as, being competitive. But after that, there's not a whole lot of bodies that I trust. I'm unsure about the status of Ty Harris. I think she's a big piece for that team. And the depth, I just think it's a really big talent drop-off for that second unit. Whereas Minnesota, how many players did they have go to the Olympics and play on all these different teams? It's Team World right here. I think their bench is really deep, really good. So I think the longer the game goes on, it favors Minnesota. The longer the series goes on, it favors Minnesota. I'm looking more towards the 4.5, laying it. The series price, I think I saw Minnesota was minus 215, which I didn't really want to take that. Do you think Connecticut can win this series, or you just think they maybe have a better chance in this first game?
Well, they won the season series, so they're certainly capable of winning this playoff series. Minnesota virtually went through an entire season without injury. There was a spell where they were bad, and you know why? It's because Nafisha Collier was out for like 5 games, and right. Minnesota kind of slipped at that point in time. But other than that, they've been relatively healthy. Let me go back real quick here as I check over my own spreadsheets here, which tell me that on July the 4th, when they played and Connecticut won 78-73, they won that game without Ty Harris. She was out that night. Game hit 151, and Connecticut won by 5 points. So you have to have her, though, I believe, in playoff games. We talked about this the other day, too. She's that important. Bench rotation, extension, yada, yada, yada. You would hopefully, in the playoffs, I know you were questioning some coaching decisions on who do we have on the floor at certain times. It's the playoffs. Stop it. You probably need 7 that you can get in and out, and Ty Harris would make Connecticut look a lot better 7 deep than they do right now without her. So certainly that's something to take note of.
I have only future I have left right now is Minnesota Lynx. I took them before the playoffs plus 335 to win it all. I think that they've been playing the best basketball post All-Star break. The only game that they lost, if I'm not mistaken, is the one where they weren't playing anybody, the last game, I think, of the season.
Sparks, yeah.
And it's tough for me to play against that. I want to play on the team playing the best. I have the team who's the deepest. I have the team who I think has the best player right now in Nafisha Collier. It's very, very hard for me to go against that, Rob. I think I'm probably going to be on Minnesota some way, shape, or form. UCapper says Minnesota's depth is a strength. Picking up. I don't know who this is. Why can't I get this correct? I don't know who he's talking about. I don't know. My brain must not be working today. But those initials did not ring a bell for me.
He's talking about Hines Allen.
Oh, Maisha Hines Allen. Okay. Yeah, I think it helps out at that 4 spot or forward spot. The depth is crazy on this team. So I can only look towards the Lynx. That's just how I feel. Mark says he has futures on the Liberty and the Lynx. I think they can meet up definitely, and you can be in a position to win money no matter who wins. So I think we did good stuff there, Veno. I will be playing under or the Lynx if I'm playing right now. Let's move over to college football. We do have a game we'll talk about here. And let me get my odd screen up. That looks like North Carolina at Duke. This one goes. I cannot find. This is the one thing about college that kills me, Rob. It's just so many games. I'm trying to find them on the odd screen. It's like I just get overwhelmed. But anyway, spread is 2.5 point favorites for Duke. I'm not quite sure where it opened in a total of 56. How are you viewing this one, Veno?
I think I'm going to look at it from an over perspective, guys. It's a 4:00 Eastern start, 1:00 Pacific. 2.5 Duke opener, 55.5 total has been pushed to 56 in most every venue now. We do see one still 55.5 over at Bookmaker, which is usually a leading indicator. North Carolina get involved in that 70-50 game last week against James Madison. Unbelievable. Score 50 and lose by 3 touchdowns. Crazy. But in the process, North Carolina's probably found its quarterback identity. This will be the third one they've been through, but it looks like Criswell's the guy they're going to go with. He's led a lot of touchdown drives for this team the last couple of weeks. Big arm, talented kid. They played a lot of offense last week. Some fluke touchdown. Well, blocked punts. I won't call them fluke, but some non-offensive touchdowns by James Madison in that game as well. But their defense was shredded, Skee. The key to this handicap, and I like to be proactive here, but to start the season, Duke hired a new offensive coordinator, Jonathan Brewer. Came over from SMU. He's been with Auburn under Gus Malzahn, SMU, all these teams that are spread offenses that go super fast. And when he came to Duke in the spring, he changed the offense and said, we're going to go as fast as humanly possible on offense. And they got Malik Murphy, backup quarterback from Texas last year. He was backing up Quinn Ewers, played a couple of games. He becomes the starter here on the transfer portal. And I watched the very first couple of games, and they went up top a bunch, vertical. Not a lot of connections, though. Probably the fact that the quarterback was new, the offense was new, the relationship between the receivers was new, but the season is worn on now, and I think the timing is better. And then I watched North Carolina last week get beaten for huge pass plays, as if they didn't know what a go route was, as if they didn't know what a post was. James Madison beat them like a drum deep. And I say to myself, Duke's going super fast and they take a lot of deep shots. This is probably the week where they start scoring points. Definitely believe North Carolina is going to score points. They give me every indication with that balanced offense that they will. And 55.5, 56 is kind of a low total in college football. So I'm going to play it that way, Skee. It's a little bit proactive because there's not a lot of offensive numbers right now to stand on and make a case for Duke. But it's the overall system and the fact that it's becoming a little more cohesive in my eyes. And they're playing, you have to add in the fact that the matchup's real good here. North Carolina just does not defend the pass at all right now, especially the vertical pass.
So over 56, and I don't think it moved too much. I think it opened around 55 or 55.5. So I'm not getting the ass into the line. Good stuff there, Veno. I don't have any opinions on this game. Won't be when I'm playing. But I'll roll with Mr. Veno there. Let's talk a little bit of NFL because that's some stuff where I can't have opinions. And we did do a little bit of talking on Wednesday. I don't think we talked too much about this game here. Damn, there was something, and I know I should have written it down, but there was. Here we go. I saw a stat on Twitter. It says, well, actually, let me start before I do the tweet. This one opened 4.5 for Houston. Got bet up. I think I saw a 6.5. Maybe even saw a 7. I'm not sure, but now it's back down to 6 as a consensus, and the total has dropped 1.5 points to 44.5. So the stat or trend or whatever you want to call it, I saw on Twitter says underdogs off a 30+ point blowout. They're 103, 59, and 8 against the spread, 63.6%. And it says it just cashed with the Rams. Jaguars looked terrible in that game versus the Bills, but this stat says after they get embarrassed, they come and show up in the next one. Being down 0-3, is there reason still for them to show up and play hard, or do you think they've quit? How do you feel about the Jaguars +6 in this spot?
I could tell how painful it is for you to have to consider that trend in playing Jacksonville because last week I didn't want to say the words, but I don't think you had any problem kind of leading people to the opinion that Trevor Lawrence is a bum. So
He's a bum. I don't even
he's
know why I put money on him, man. Thanks for
So
reminding me.
for you to have to step up and bet on him, I know it'll be painful if you do so. Reasons why they should play. One and only one. It's a divisional game and it's a season saver. If you win this game inside the division, again, you go to 1-3, you drop Houston to 2 losses, you're only 1 game behind them, and you have beaten them head-to-head once. So it's huge. If Jacksonville loses this, you might as well mail it in. It's pretty much done deal. But Houston was beaten up pretty well, too, by Minnesota, and now they're back home facing a team that's in all kinds of disarray. So, I mean, from a fundamental standpoint, if you're just looking at what's happening on the field and the players that are going to be on the field, you have to like Houston. But if you drag the situationals into it, the implications into it, which the NFL, a lot of the results and who gets paid and who doesn't get paid depends on these situationals more than the fundamentals sometimes. So you have to consider it, Skee. The total's gone down from 46 to 44.5 simply because Jacksonville's so miserable on offense and Houston is a very good defense under DeMeco Ryans. He's actually now gotten to see this team twice from last year because they're divisional rivals. They know how to defend them. I don't know. I'd be like you. I'd have a hard time playing Jacksonville here, but I can understand reasoning why, where if ever they're going to put up a Super Bowl type effort, it would be here. The question you have to ask yourself is, are they capable of that? And Trevor Lawrence, wow. I mean, it was bad on Monday night. It was bad. That's another thing too, Skee. Is there it'll be interesting.
You cut out there for the last like 5 seconds of what you said. You said
Work week travel
it's freezing
for
up.
Jacksonville.
It's freezing up a little bit there, Veno. But I think you're saying something about the travel for the Jags. UCapper did send me a query. I'm trying to pull it up here. Maybe I'll just shout it out. No, I'll put it up on here. I'll put at least one. He sent me 2. But let's get it up here. Bear with me for 1 second. Monday, not Monday. And you there, Rob? Yeah, Rob might have had to restart. So I'll get Rob back in here in 1 second. Let me just get this query up here. Greater than or equal to an opponent's win percentage and -8. Pretty sure that should be what he sent me there. And it is. Okay. There you go, Veno. What was the Boofer says Jags, Silence, and Veno. what was the last thing you had there?
It was only the reference to the short work week for Jacksonville plus travel. That's something against them here. Kind of difficult, but Houston's an opponent that they know, so maybe it's not as bad. So and hopefully they got out of Jacksonville because of that hurricane. Get the heck out of that place.
That's a good point. I saw it was looking pretty crazy. I can't imagine being in a hurricane, man. People are y'all different being able to deal with that. But here's a query that Ronald Cabang was sharing. I mean, I mentioned one already that I saw on Twitter. Here is saying, going back to 2017, in the first 6 weeks of the season, you're looking at a home favorite off of a loss. Their opponent is also off of a loss. It's not Monday Night Football. The home favorite has a better win percentage than their opponent, and they're lower than an 8-point favorite. That's what this query says. And it has them as 4-22-1. ATS says to fade the Texans, play on the Jaguars. So a lot of those trends are lining up for the Jags. It's just, are you willing to hold your nose and put that bet in? Because this team looked awful last week. So Appreciate you sharing that, RC. Chris also says week 4 home teams off a road loss to having covered are 12-23 straight up, 10-20-3 ATS, 21-12 to the over. Believe that says to take the Jags and bet the over. So good stuff on that. Vino, was there any other game you wanted to mention, or should I maybe mention one more?
I think you should mention one more.
Okay. So I know we're getting short on time here. I want to ask. So much. Um, let's talk about. I'm curious your opinion on Pittsburgh and Indianapolis. So it opened Indianapolis as a 1 point favorite, flipped to Steelers as a 2 point favorite, and I can't help but wonder. I mean, I'm not gonna say high on the Steelers team, but I expected the Steelers to be better than the market with the 8 win total that they put out there. They now started the season 3-0, but I just, I can't ignore they've had some cupcakes. Um, and I'm trying to pull it up here. Why can't I find the Steelers? They played the Chargers, who were banged up. They played the Broncos with the rookie quarterback, and they played the Falcons' first game for Kirk Cousins coming off of a major injury. So that defense was able to look at some easy targets. Now the Colts haven't been great, but I don't know. I don't know what to think about Richardson. Like, how do you feel about him as a quarterback? Do you think that Colts offensive line and run game will be able to do anything against the Steelers, D? I wanted to try to get there with the Colts, but I feel a little less confident than I felt a little earlier in the week. So, how are you thinking about Steelers versus Colts?
The main thing that, if I'm just to paint assets and liabilities, the main liability I think for the Colts here is Mike Tomlin designing a defense against Anthony Richardson. I mean, there's times within a game, Skee, he just doesn't look like he fully understands what's going on. There was a comment made. Let me just bring this up. There was a comment made by the Bengals. A couple of defensive players on the Bengals back in the preseason. They had one of those weeks where they shared practices and then they played each other. And the first teams were on the field during practice. And the Bengals started making fun of Anthony Richardson. They were like, is that all he does is run? He never throws the ball. It's like they were referring to the fact that he would just look at a first read and then bail. Forget the rest of the field, just bail. And they were kind of taunting him. And then you watch some of these games and he makes you really happy with some of his throws inside of 60 minutes. And then he makes you pull the hair out of your head with some of his decisions over 60 minutes. Talented kid, not really accurate. I'm not a fan of non-accurate passers in the NFL. And Mike Tomlin just is scary developing a defense to face this guy. All that said, Pittsburgh hasn't faced a mobile quarterback like this yet. You rattled off the teams. Justin Herbert is a stationary target. Kirk Cousins is a stationary target. Bo Nix, he looked good last week, but half the time he don't know what the hell he's doing out there. So it is hard to say if they can contain his dual threat ability here. But I venture to say he'll make as many mistakes as he makes good plays. Makes it hard to back Indy. The Indianapolis secondary is their weak point. But they have been run on too. That's scary against Pittsburgh because if you can be run on, Pittsburgh can just settle in. And can Indianapolis stop Justin Fields' dual threat ability? So I think I agree with the line move here. I'm with you, though. I would like to find enough reasons to bet Indianapolis. I think it's a game I'd rather shy away from than play.
All right, fair enough.
Total might be light, Skee. Real quick, just looking at 40, total might be light.
You trust that Steelers offense to put up some points here?
Well, against this defense, when I go back through their game logs, Indy hasn't stopped anybody yet. And it might be one of the worst defenses Pittsburgh's played. Atlanta, decent defense. Chargers, decent defense. Broncos, decent defense. Indianapolis, not much in the way of defense. So we'll see.
I'm looking at them. They played the Bears, the Packers, the Texans. Well, I mean, they did hold the Bears and the Packers to 16 points, but Rookie quarterback. Packers were banged up. Yeah, this one, I don't know if I feel comfortable enough to play it. So I might have to think a little bit longer. Like I said, I'm taking my time with NFL this week. After last week, I gotta avoid these bombs, man. I'm ducking and dodging, trying to just find the right play. So I think that's all we have time for here today. Veno, before we move or while we move over to best bets, I'll ask you if there's anything you would like to promote, and then if you have, you know, maybe one play you like a little more than the rest that we've talked about.
I will say real quick, not wasting a lot of time here, Skee, but we talk an awful lot about how our work is at wagertalk.com. You can find the link in the description to this show. Saturday, tomorrow, it'll be my first 5% blue chip in college football this season. So for those of you who might be interested, you can go ahead and get it. In a lot of cases, you can get the entire day's worth of plays attached with that for a much, much better price. So if you're interested in selection packages, tomorrow, college football, 5% blue chip goes off. Best bet for the show, Skee. I'll go back to what I said about North Carolina Duke. I'm being a little proactive here, but I think it's going to go over to 56 points. Won't get into the weeds. I already described it. You guys can go back and listen. But I like North Carolina Duke as the best bet. One I've played already over 56.
Good stuff from Veno. And man, I hate this, but I don't have a play that I've made, and I refuse. I'm not one of these guys who's going to give you a play and I don't have no money on it. I don't believe in doing that. It's just me personally. So my short list right now is the first half under for that Aces and Liberty game, the full game under in that Sun and Lynx game, or the Lynx on the spread. Pretty sure I'll be involved in one of those, if not two. And then NFL, I'm going to continue to talk a little bit more out with my guy 5-Star on this next show. And then maybe after that show, I'll be able to give you guys a best bet or two. So appreciate you guys for tuning in. Rob, I appreciate you taking the time to do the show with me and share the good information. Make sure you guys come on over. I'll be live with 5-Star in about 3 minutes. We'll talk some college football for tonight, and then we'll go through a couple other NFL games that Rob and I did not touch. So catch you guys over there. And Rob, hopefully you have a good, profitable weekend.